Welcome back to the second
Take two.
to the second podcast of the Abu Dhabi final race. The first podcast you might have missed the first podcast
because somebody didn't record it.
because somebody forgot to push record.
Oh man, I have horrible luck.
And I don't want to push any fingers or point any fingers at anybody. But
Don't ever leave me in charge of the camera again.
If you have an opportunity, click here to see his other video where he forgot. You like that? You like that? Did you put your video here?
It's important to note
put my video right here.
this is not the first time this has happened, and it's not the first time this has happened within 2 weeks. So if you're just joining us for the first time,
Welcome back.
Friends with Cars, the Abu Dhabi edition of the F1 Talk.
Yeah. Well, we'll jump into it because I know we've been here for quite some time.
You're in for a treat, though. The first time we were all subdued, I was drinking tea and coffee was over here. Now we have drinks.
Should be better, right? Right, guys?
Someone's going to have a good time.
Right? Oh.
Hold on.
Well, we'll go ahead and jump into it. I want to get your guys' race result reaction.
While it's still fresh in our minds.
Yes. It was for myself. It was definitely a great race. I'm going to jump right into it. I think I had mentioned it, in our first take. Definitely a Honda guy. I'm a Honda fan. For Honda to get a championship, though it was not a constructors championship, it was a drivers championship, and they are leaving Formula One with one last one. And I personally am happy about that. And it's refreshing to be able to see a different driver other than Lewis. Not knocking Lewis and the 7 world champions he's already won. But
I think it was great for the sport of Formula One to have a new champion.
Refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fantastic, and I think it sets up a great season coming up because you have a new champion trying to prove himself that he's not a one-hit wonder, and you have a 7 world champion coming back at him saying, I won this title back.
I want to be the best there ever was.
I want to be the best there ever was, and you're going to have that 7 championships that Schumacher had hanging over his head. If you get that 8th one, no one can take that away from you. You are the most winning champion.
I'm glad Lewis, not because I didn't want to see him win. I'm glad Lewis did not win his 8th world championship this year and continue his dominance. I hope he wins a championship next year, or, at least with this new car design, because at that point, he will be the best. He'll have 8 world championships. He won a championship in the V8 era, now in the hybrid era, and then as this new design's coming up, I hope he wins a world championship with this new car because it shows that he'll be the best.
I'm just going to point out, I was asleep for the race, so I don't have a lot to say. I watched the highlights. I didn't watch the whole race. I was out drinking the night before with these 2 lovely gentlemen, and I cannot hang, so I did not wake up at 5 a.m., and
I appreciate your honesty. We do appreciate your honesty. I do want to say that we got to do a better job in training for the upcoming season. Alcohol should not prevent us from taking full advantage of a Formula One race live.
yeah.
I'm glad we watched it live, though, because we were considering watching the replay after the race is done. But there could have been so much gone bad with that.
Oh, absolutely. And for me, the element of surprise is always the best. I think you mentioned that when you watch the races live, you're so stressed.
Yeah, I like looking at the results afterwards and watching the highlights. It causes me so much anxiety.
And that, to me, that stress, that's the excitement. I can't get enough of it. I need more.
Yeah, I'm not like that.
Well, in terms of Lewis Hamilton not winning his 8th world championship this year, we had previously brought it up as the fact that you're at such a high winning your first world championship. I think you mentioned, is it enough? Is that high going to come back?
Yeah, it's not even that the high is going to come back. I just, being a world champion, you start karting as a kid and you go to Formula 3 and Formula 2 and then you get to Formula 1 and you spent your whole life trying to become a world champion. Like, is there a low that comes from that? Like not depression necessarily, but you finally reach the one thing you've taken your whole life to reach. Like, do you drop after that, or do you come back hungrier? I wonder what that concept is.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what do I do now? Like, that's,
yeah, absolutely.
I worked so hard and I got it, so I'm like, okay, well then now what?
Right, whereas like you have people like Nico Rosberg and James Hunt who are like, nah, I'm done. But then you have Hamilton and people who are like, it's not enough. And you were talking about earlier that Hamilton was just so visibly upset that he didn't win. And it's interesting because you're arguably the best driver ever. You know what I mean? Next to Michael Schumacher. I mean, he's technically won more races than Michael Schumacher. You could argue that he's better. It just depends on which area you're from and what the situation is or who you like better. But to be visibly upset after winning 7 world championships proves that you're still in it. But then there's some people who it does seem like they just drop. They're like, okay, well, I'm done.
Yeah, you think you would have nothing else to prove at that point. But yet, when you're that upset about it, you're thinking, well, I have more. I want to give more. But you're right. I think we saw in this race, I think we've seen every race, even the clips, or the ones when they win, the emotion, the excitement, and everyone's crying. I think for the drivers, especially even Mac's reaction, there's tears. And I think you're right. It's got to be some sort of a culmination of this goal that you wanted to achieve. Yeah, you reached the pinnacle. So there's maybe a release of, I finally did it. And
yeah.
Maybe there is a sadness that comes a couple of days later. It's like, what do I do now? Like, I already won. I got nothing to prove.
Because it's not like you picked up Formula 1 at 18 and you were like, okay, yeah, now I'm the best. It's like you've practiced and wanted this your entire life from probably the age of 4 years old to now at 23 or how old he is. Like, I feel like for me personally, I'd be like, I did it. What now? Like, I'm never going to be able to do that again. I've already won.
Yeah.
I'll never be able to win for the first time again.
I think it's just striving to be better than Lewis Hamilton, or at this point, better than Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher. Mm-hmm. That's got to be the next goal. And actually, I think it'd be ridiculous to think, and it's absolutely possible, but it'd be ridiculous to think that's my goal now. I've won a world championship. Now I want to be the best.
Yeah.
I want 8 world championships, 9 world championships.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll ever see that in our time?
I think so. I'm hopeful.
Very close.
But here's the thing, though. If you're Lewis, you've won with different teams.
Right.
I want to say if you're Max, you want to do the same thing. Now, he did say at the end of the race, let's do this for 10, 15 more years. And I think you made the comment, look, he's pledging his allegiance to the team. He's coming back with the team. I think there's something great that a driver can be with the team from beginning to end. But there is something about, I can win in any car. Lewis won in McLaren. Probably wasn't the best car at the time, but he won. He won with a Mercedes, which is arguably one of the best cars they've had.
Of this era.
Next season, it's a whole new ball game. And if he manages to win with that car, there really is nothing you can say about the guy other than, doesn't matter what you give him, he's going to give you a championship.
Right.
The championship aside, I want to bring up Sergio Perez, the legend, according to Max Verstappen.
Yeah, I said this feels game on.
Oh, Checo is a legend.
Absolute animal.
I know, Gustavo, you've done a little bit of research or, gone down the rabbit hole prior to this podcast. And I want to bring it to you, but just my take. Sergio Perez, man, he is an incredible driver. And it had to take me this season with him in a new car to see that.
Which I think it's kind of unfair to Sergio. Like, granted, he knows his job and he's the second driver, and I think he obviously knows that. And they say that there's no second driver, which you say, and it's so obvious that there is. But I feel like that's super unfair to his talent, because he's obviously so talented. Like, granted, he probably does want to be a good teammate, but I feel like he's not wasting away there, but like he doesn't get to reach his full potential because he's always going to be behind Max. And now that I've seen how great he is and what he can do in a good car, I feel kind of bad.
Absolutely. It took the guy 10 years to get his podium, to finish P1 and get on that podium. And it seems like the minute he did that, maybe like you said, I mean, something probably a weight came off his shoulders. Maybe he's more relaxed. Maybe he just changed his perspective. But the fact that he went to a car where he had a chance, and instead of taking that chance and trying to take over, he actually worked with the team to give Max that championship. And let's face it, he gave Max that championship.
Absolutely.
In addition to the FIA.
In addition to the FIA's role, which we'll talk about.
Mike.
Yeah, and that started with the beginning of the season. I think you mentioned there was two races where he had a podium, and he pulled off the track, changed his tires to take that fastest lap away from Lewis Hamilton to make sure that Max was ahead, and he did that. And I can't think of any other driver that would do that and not complain.
Oh, absolutely. And also, it's hard. For me, I think deep down that I know if the roles were reversed and Sergio Perez had a chance to win, Max Verstappen's attitude and his just how proud he is wouldn't do the same thing. And I think that's what frustrates me even more is because now that I'm seeing how great Checo can be, I know that he doesn't get the same opportunity.
Oh yeah, Checo would need a Checo to help him get to that point.
Right, but and then Max is never going to be his Checo. You know what I mean?
Absolutely not. And I can't fault Max for that. That's his personality. That's what got him to the place he's at today, to be able to win a championship with the help of other people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a personality trait. And I think Sergio's never had the chance. He finally made it to a team where he has a chance, and I'm glad that Red Bull gave him a seat for next season. I don't see him not giving him a seat for the following season. Given his performance this season, this isn't alone just earned him the next 3 years.
I think for as long as Max is with Red Bull, I mean, if Sergio's going to keep being the team player that he is, I mean, they should keep that team together. He's the only driver that's been in that Red Bull that's been able to do anything with it and be successful.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Adding to what you were saying, though, I can see Max Verstappen not playing, the team game. Or at least the teammate game. But I would like to think that if Checo was a contender to win a championship, Max was a little bit behind. Maybe he was in third place and Checo was in first place. That Max would think back on this season.
I don't think that Red Bull would give Checo the opportunity. I think that's the problem that I have is even if Max wasn't doing as well and Checo was doing well, I feel like they would still try to push Max, just like they did when Ricciardo was at Red Bull. Even though Ricciardo was the more senior driver, they pushed and pushed and pushed for Max to be better, and that's why Ricciardo ended up leaving in the long run, because he felt like chopped liver.
And I think we talked about this a little bit earlier. I think we made a comment of teams, they say there's no second driver. But we've seen the most successful teams and the ones that have won the championship are the ones that clearly have a favorite. You have that in Valtteri, who, if Hamilton did not exist, Valtteri would have taken the championship because for 3 years he was at second place.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, but Mercedes put all their effort behind Lewis, and that's why he won, and that's why the team won. You have the same thing with Max, Red Bull did it, and you had the same thing with Ferrari when they were pushing Sebastian. I mean, you have those teams that they say there's no second driver, but they do put their efforts behind one driver, and that's what makes them successful.
Well, and then last season, the efforts went behind Leclerc, and I think that's why Vettel was like, I don't want to come back.
Absolutely, and it was very clear to see. It'll be interesting to next season because Carlos is doing he acclimated perfectly.
Actually, we talked about that. I was talking to James about that after watching the highlights, how Carlos is probably going to be their number one driver and Leclerc's going to get pushed out, and I'm going to be like, how convenient. That's exactly what he did to Vettel, and that just proves that they don't care. They don't care about you. They care about who's doing better.
He's going to say, oh, that's what that feels like.
Yeah.
So I think that's a success for it, and I think Red Bull was successful because they put their effort behind Max, and they just got lucky in Sergio, who was able to selfishly help out. I think I always remember Alonso, it was hilarious. Alonso saying, it was a very inspiring moment when it was the last race when he said, tell Ocon to defend like a lion. Mm-hmm. And of course, Ocon didn't do anything. They just went trying.
He tried.
Yeah, trying for Ocon was nothing.
Yeah.
But then if you put that soundbite and then show Sergio holding back Hamilton for 8 seconds so that Max can get behind him, and then get behind Hamilton and give Max a tow, the DRS, and then pretty much link shot him across to give him a chance. I mean, you can't ask for anything better than that. I mean, he's been solid the entire season, but this race, it started with qualifiers when he gave him a tow, and it ended with the race when he pretty much frustrated Hamilton for almost 2 laps.
Max better give him, at least take him to dinner. Something.
Well, you know,
He might have gotten him a bonus, I guess. I don't know how that works. I think, do you only get the bonus if you're in the constructors?
I think drivers get bonus as part of their contract for winning.
Oh, okay. Well,
But
Checo
not
better
the team.
get a
The team does
bonus.
not get a purse
The team,
for
yeah.
getting a drivers' championship.
But they do get money for winning the constructors. So Red Bull's going to get second place, I think, for the constructors. So they're going to get a percentage on that. And yeah, I'm sure Checo's going to be well taken care of. I mean, aside from the fact that he already has a seat for next season.
Right. I'm sure he's making money there too.
Oh, absolutely. And he brings a lot of sponsors in. So listen, the fact that he did so well, the fact that Max called him a legend and everybody's praising him, that's just huge also for Red Bull. I mean, when he got hired at Red Bull in Mexico, people literally stopped drinking tequila for a day and started drinking Red Bull. So I can only imagine how much money he's worth to Red Bull right now.
Right. I want to see the numbers on those sales. I think we might have brought it up in a previous podcast, but it's for sure that Red Bull sales have gone up, but what's the percentage of just the news of him getting signed to Red Bull? What is that percentage in sales increase?
Especially when you have, I mean, listen, you see the Dutch, people get behind Max more than pretty much any other driver, I think. It's just the fans.
Mexico fans are crazy.
They're crazy, and we've been there to the race live, and they're crazy. And the fact,
In a good way,
of course. But they're so insane when it comes to the fact that Checo is their driver,
And they love him.
It's
Oh my
not. It's
gosh.
not that he represents the people; he represents the entire country.
Right.
So it is a big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good things for him.
Absolutely. Hopefully he gets his chance. I don't know. It's one thing to be on the edge of not getting a seat, and then them come to you and be like, "Hey, this is what we need you to do next season." But how long as a person? Because I'm sure Valtteri, when he became the second driver, or Hamilton's, I don't know how to explain it. When they became a team, he probably was okay, maybe the first or second season. But after so long, I mean, how long can you take when you know that you're good and you're in a good car and the team doesn't favor you? Like Bottas, we saw him last season and this season and even the season before, starting to grow that animosity. So right now he's doing really good and he appreciates it. But I mean, how many seasons can he take being a wingman?
Absolutely. And if you look at the money that they're making, there's no way you don't look at your teammate and say, why is he making 3 times what I'm making and I'm getting second place?
Mm-hmm. And I'm the one helping him win.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not to dull their shine, because I'm not saying that Checo isn't a legend, because he is. He's great, but I just hope that he gets the opportunities that he deserves.
I hope that Russell can live up to the expectations as much as he's wearing suits and trying to be James Bond.
Oh my gosh, Russell's just got to wait out. Yes, oh my gosh, he's trying way too hard, but I think Russell's smart enough. He's just got to wait out Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton's maybe going to do 4 more seasons. And Russell's like, I can wait it out.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. Whoever's taking that seat has to be aware that you're never going to be the number 1 driver. Even if Lewis is doing the worst, you're not going to be the number 1 driver in that team, period. That's just the way it goes. Now, I will throw something out there. If Lewis wins his 8th championship, I do see him retiring.
Yes.
Right. But I don't think that he's going without winning 8.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I agree with that.
He's going to be one of those people who has it like Brett Favre, who was at the peak of his game and then kept playing and kept playing and playing, trying to be better, and eventually he just was garbage.
Yep.
So I see Hamilton doing something similar to that. If he doesn't win his 8th world championship, he's just going to keep going and getting worse and worse. So I hope he wins it.
I love you, Brett Favre, but you did stay a little too long. Unlike my boy Tom Brady.
Oh, well.
Playing like a 25-year-old.
I know. He's still doing good. They're doing good in the league.
Oh, he's doing really good.
But we're not here to talk about football.
So I know we've mentioned it a couple times today, but all these different variables coming together to piece this end result. A couple of those variables were the virtual safety car and the safety car, which came out after Latifi's crash, which we'll come back to. But those 2 pits by Red Bull during the VSC, as well as the regular safety car, were crucial because Mercedes didn't pit. They did not want to give the position. They couldn't have pit because Red Bull would have done the opposite of what Mercedes did.
Right.
And it worked out for Red Bull.
Yeah, unfortunately for Mercedes, they didn't have the luxury of doing that. They could only react to whatever Red Bull did. And Red Bull just decided to pit. Now, there were gambles. There were huge gambles that they took, and it worked out for them. And I think that is the unpredictability and wonderful thing about Formula One is there was no way for the teams to know what was going to happen. We don't think.
Right.
Only Latifi knows the truth. But there's no way for them to know. But for them to pit, it was a huge gamble, and it paid off for them. But yes, Mercedes didn't have a choice. They had to react to whatever Red Bull did, and Red Bull took a huge chance, and it paid off huge. And yeah, there was a lot of things that had to happen. A lot of things had to come together. It was in the 10 laps left when Christian Horner said,
We need a miracle.
It will take a miracle, it will take a knock to God to make this happen. And apparently God watches Formula One on Sunday.
Yep, and it's
Definitely
obviously
doesn't listen to me.
obviously is a Red Bull fan.
And obviously he's a Red Bull fan.
And he didn't listen to me.
Well, it's the wing thing. You know? Anyway, yeah, a lot of things had to come together. A lot of little nuances that that happened. And Latifi, of course, coming in clutch for Red Bull.
One of those variables.
Exactly.
You ever just want to punch somebody in the face that you've never met before?
Who would that be?
But yeah, all those variables coming together, and like I said, Latifi crashing led to an opportunity for Red Bull, which put him in a position still behind Lewis, but behind 4 or 5 back markers, right?
Yeah. And
FIA creating this controversial situation that pretty much led to Max Verstappen winning his first world championship.
Which, said it again. I said it earlier, but it wasn't recorded. I'll say it again. I don't think the team principal should be able to speak to the FIA during the race. I think that that's a big no-no. I think it's your job as the FIA to make the decisions, and you shouldn't have a direct line, because it wasn't until Christian Horner called in, or whoever called in, and was like, oh, you're not going to let them unlap themselves, and then they only unlapped that 5 car. There would have been no controversy if that didn't happen, because the original thing that would have standed would be that they were not going to let them unlap themselves.
Yeah, and I have to go back and see when the direct contact with the race director happened. Maybe it's always been there or not, but I agree with you. I think Formula One has a system in place where you can appeal decisions after the race.
Right.
Teams have done it. Decisions and race results have been altered after the race. We've seen it many times.
So then it's not necessary.
If there's a system in place, there shouldn't be a need for you to do it during the race, because you're right. After that call happened and the race ended, you kind of couldn't help to think that was an influenced decision by that call from Red Bull.
Right, and I just think, there's a lot of stress of being the FIA, and there's a lot of decisions that need to be made. You shouldn't have the added stress of them calling you.
Now, it makes for great television.
Yeah, I'm not saying
And
that it
Formula One
doesn't.
is driven by money, as we know, and that's why I love the sport, because they're not ashamed of that.
Mm-hmm.
They will tell you we do this for the money, and this is what makes it great. But I agree with you. I think that would be really interesting if you can actually just record your messages to the FIA and they can get them afterwards, but you're not going to get it during the race, because afterward the fact, you can appeal it.
Right, this is my decision as it stands. Your job is to run your team. My job is to make decisions based off of what I see in the race, because the original decision that stood was that they were not going to be able to unlap themselves.
And you can say that nothing that the principal said affected your decision, but what I'm hearing is going to affect my perception of your decision. Mm-hmm. I know it's not about me, but
then also, I think you brought it up, if the safety car was the least that they could have done, but then they could have red flagged the session, which they've done previously.
Yeah, they had that option.
And let them race, because they didn't want to finish under a safety car, which I totally get. I'm not saying that that's wrong.
And unpopular opinion or popular opinion, depending on whose side you're on. But yeah, if you call you're right, the safety car was the least they could have done, and that's what they did, but they could have red flagged, which they've done in Azerbaijan, they've done before. They could have red flagged, and when they restarted, everyone would have had the same tires, and they would have been...
It would have been a standing start.
Standing start, 5 laps. Now, I think you made the comment that earlier in the season they had met with the teams, and they said, you let them race, we want to finish the race, not under their safety car. Well, what would have been even more optimal than stopping the race and letting them have the last 5 laps they deserved?
Right.
And let them do a standing start or a rolling start and let them fight each other out. At least they're closer. And if Max Verstappen would have got ahead of him in a more fair situation like that, then we wouldn't be having these conversations. That would have been the least controversial situation.
Absolutely.
Because then they would have battled it out on track on equal standpoints.
I agree.
You had mentioned earlier today that this controversy overshadowed, several major events. Not bad, but the one that sticks out, and the one that happened first, is the fact that Kimi Raikkonen got a DNF on his last race of his Formula One career.
Speaking of legends, Kimi, absolute legend.
For what?
For what? Such a great guy. Oh, such a great guy. Yeah, it's unfortunate that he couldn't finish the race, but it was his last race, and though he didn't think it was a big deal and didn't care, like you mentioned, for Kimi, this was not his life, it was just his job, and I can appreciate that. But for I think for us fans and for the other drivers that probably looked up to him, a lot of them probably looked up to him when they started karting.
Absolutely.
I think it should have been a bigger deal that he was there. I think you made a comment there was no donuts on the. I mean, I know there was donuts, it just didn't show it. Yeah, I think the controversy just overshadowed many things. Kimi being the first one, Carlos Sainz getting the fourth podium for Ferrari's second one,
Yuki Tsunoda getting fourth place, which I didn't know. That you're right. We were so stuck in the decision that the FIA made that at the end of the race we didn't realize that Yuki Tsunoda, Gasly came in fifth.
Mick Schumacher had his best. 14th, his best.
Which I'm not just upset that Hamilton didn't win. I'm also upset that Ferrari beat McLaren, and that was also something that was overshadowed.
That was another big thing too. That was a great battle for them, and yeah, your boy Ricardo did not deliver.
Hopefully next season he does better.
We're hoping.
That's the hope.
I don't know.
I think the Honey Badgers needs to reset, go back to his late breaking ways.
Maybe next season with all the cars being similar, maybe he'll win.
Hey, anything is possible. I guess we'll see what the new car design does.
I hope they race in Australia this year.
Oh, yeah.
Because they didn't do it in 2020, and they were supposed to do it this year, and they canceled it too.
I would love to go to Australia to watch a race in Perth. Is it in Perth?
They have
Melbourne.
They have them venomous snakes there, though.
That's okay. I'm a venomous snake.
True.
Ew.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
Oh.
Well, you haven't left me yet.
I guess we'll find out. Stay tuned.
What else got overshadowed by the controversy?
Well, Giovinazzi's last, and I know you're going to say, well, it's Giovinazzi, whatever, but it was his last race, too. It was a pretty big deal. I think Yuki getting fourth it's pretty phenomenal. It was his best finish. I think he did way better the second half of the season than the first half.
Well, the first half of the season, Red Bull and Helmut Marko and everything were just throwing him under the bus.
Yeah.
So.
But it was Valtteri's last race with Mercedes.
Yes.
Nikita was out because of COVID. Nobody cares about him, but he was out because of COVID. I mean, there was a lot of stuff. I feel like there was like 5 or 6 different things that were kind of a big deal, and they were all overshadowed by. There was a controversy on I mean, yes, we were screaming at the TV. It was very exciting, but I think part of that screaming was, what the hell is going on right now?
Let's fucking go! Oh my gosh! Holy shit.
And if you listen to the drivers' radios, they all were saying the same thing. I think they weren't even asking who won. They were all saying, what the hell was that?
And that's a bigger problem to me, is that if all of the drivers are equally as confused about the situation, then something was done wrong.
I think Ricardo said, I think they told him you finished whatever place he finished, and he said, I'm just glad I wasn't part of that.
Yeah.
Right. So then and you get what I'm saying? Like, if everybody around you is like, that's a problem, you might be the problem. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Even they're confused. And I know you had brought up the rules and the interpretations and different things like that, but why make that decision on the last race with so much on the line?
Yeah, I kind of feel like if this would have happened 2 races ago, it would be a big deal, but not as much as it was the fact that it was the last race.
Right. Like, if you want them to race, let them race, but you don't have to let those cars unlap themselves.
Kind of to elaborate on you bringing up the regulations, it was the 2 teams, Red Bull and Mercedes, meeting with the FIA after the race, and both of them pled their case. Mercedes read the regulation, and it said that any cars that are lapped, any cars that have been lapped under the safety car can unlap themselves, right? That's how it read.
Right.
And then the Red Bull argued that it says any car, not all car.
But if you would have done that one other time this season, I'd say, okay, that's fair. But the FIA didn't make that call any other time this season, and it just seems very odd that they would do it with a world championship hanging on the line.
Yeah, and I think when you leave something to interpretation, that's when you get in trouble, and I think that's what they did, and that's why there's so much controversy.
Absolutely.
I didn't tell her to lie in that position. I told her to lie there in that position. Wait a minute, what? Anyway, I don't think this is the end of it. They can appeal again.
Oh, they can?
Yeah, they can. So they can appeal that decision. I think what Mercedes was asking for is to give the result of the race as if it was the last lap. So they wanted to take the last lap away and kind of end it before, which of course gave Hamilton the championship. And they said that we're going to do that. But I still see them to appeal it again. They have to go all the way. I mean, they already paid the money and they lost it, so they kind of have to go all the way with it. Mm-hmm. And we'll see what happens. Regardless, either way, Toto's going to murder someone on the off season.
Well, see, and because he's a mob boss, we know.
He's killed people before, I know.
And see, why be able to speak to them during the race if you're going to appeal it and speak to them right afterwards anyways? There's no reason you should have a direct line to them. There's no reason.
The FIA needs to call us. We have some changes.
I like Michael Massey's comment or response to Toto.
Yeah.
And I have it written here. It's called motor racing.
Is it? Because it didn't seem like it.
Michael Massey's walking on thin ice right now.
Yeah.
I mean, did you see Toto crowd surf?
Oh my gosh, at the after party, the Mercedes after party?
Toto is a cold-hearted killer, and he crowd surf. You know what that means?
He doesn't give a...
Massey's dead.
Yeah. He's gone. He does not care.
You worry about Jimmy Hoffa not appearing anywhere before? It's going to be the Michael Massey disappearing.
Yeah, I get it. He said it's motor racing, but okay, it's motor racing for half of a lap after you clearly give somebody else an advantage. That's not motor racing. Motor racing would have been starting them and letting them fight it out on the track, like Gustavo said.
That was a cheeky answer, though, so I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I appreciate it too.
I don't.
But they wouldn't have fought on the track if the cars weren't unlapped.
No, I'm saying red flagging the session and letting them doing a start, and then they would have fought.
That could still be an option.
If they're interpreting the rules the way they want to, that was another option.
Yeah.
So.
That's motor racing to me.
Yeah.
Gustavo had brought it up. Is this Lewis Hamilton's karma from the 2008 season?
You know what? Karma goes both ways, or so I hear. And Lewis broke hearts back in 2008. I think it was probably an fourth of a lap left when he passed Glock. I don't know why. I think it was just the rain and he was slowing down.
That Glock going slowly. It is. It's Glock. Oh my goodness me.
But he was able to win, and the fact that Massa was celebrating, his dad was celebrating in the garage, and they had to tell him in the middle of the celebration, like, oh, by the way, you didn't win.
While on camera.
No.
I mean, it was just a heartbreak, and the fact that Massa was probably celebrating in his car when he went. I mean, it was just. I just can only imagine when you're on your last turn, and the guy that's going to beat you, and he's fifth, and he's in sixth place. You're going to tell everybody, you just got pulled and he's in sixth place. You got it.
Yeah.
No one could have predicted that Glock was going to stop in the middle of the race and Lewis was going to go by, which, by the way, I got to look into that because I don't know if the guy who got paid off to stop or what. But I do love the Vettel pass from Hamilton pretty much denying him the championship.
But wasn't that Brazil?
Was it Brazil?
And that's Felipe Massa's home track. Imagine.
It was
that's
a heartbreak.
Even worse.
It was, and that's what I'm saying. You have this heartbreak that happened in 2008, and then you see Lewis get it back in 13 years later. And who was there? Vettel, Alonso, and Kimi.
That's true, and they're all going. Nicole
13 years later, they're there. So
yeah.
There we go.
Which, and I think that this obviously. Felipe Massa at that time was more heading out. He was not out, but he was just like, he was further into his career. And then Lewis was this newer driver and, he was learning from all these great drivers and he was getting better and he won a world championship. So I wonder if Max is following in that same suit. Like Hamilton's obviously on his way out. He's more towards the end of his career. Not saying that he's not going to do 10 more years like him or whatever the situation is. But Max is that next generation of good drivers. So I wonder, like, who's going to follow that up? Who's going to be that next generation of good driver?
Yeah. And I think you asked the question, or you think we're going to see someone match what Lewis did? And I think we will. I think 13 years ago, no one could have predicted that someone was going to win 7 world championships. That Schumacher was going to be caught up.
But it took a long time. What year did Schumacher win his last championship?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't know.
So his last world championship was 2004. So it took, because the last year, 14 years to see it.
No, more than that. So that was Lewis won his first one, 13 years ago. So it took 16 years.
16 years to get to that space. So I think it's going to take a sufficient amount of time for either somebody to equal Lewis or Lewis and Michael Schumacher or to do better.
I mean, I don't plan on dying for the next 20 years, so there's a chance. But I think it's a big chance, and it depends on what Niskanen brings and what the cars look like and what they do. Mm-hmm. But I think it's going to be very evident that, you could probably have someone dominate again.
Oh, absolutely. It just depends on who gets it right. Some people.
I got my money on my boy Lando.
Well, that leads me to my question, though. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton aside, this upcoming season, who would you like to see as the next world champion?
Ricardo, let's go, baby.
Carlos Sainz.
Really?
Listen, I love Lando. I think Lando's by my second favorite driver. I think he's gonna get there. I just don't think. I don't know if he's got. I think he's got the raw talent. I don't know if he's got the experience. I think Carlos Sainz has a little more experience. And I think we've seen that, with the exception of Lewis, who was in his second season when he won, right? That's what it was, second season.
And at that time, he was the youngest world.
And again, he didn't have the best car at the time. I mean, lest we forget, he won the championship, and he didn't get to sit on the podium when he won the championship because he was fifth.
It was after the fact.
After the fact,
right? So
he was fifth. So I think he of course, incredible driver, but I think that Carlos Sainz has enough experience, and if Ferrari can figure out the vehicle, I think he's got the chops to do it. I think he's got the raw talent. It reminds me a little bit of his aggressiveness is equals to, I think, Ricardo, where it's, he's not very aggressive, but he knows where to push the car. He's reckless enough to maybe spin out, but kind of stay in control. So I think Carlos has a good chance.
What about you? Who do you think? Who would you want to see?
It'd be cool. It's not going to happen because he's way too fresh, but it'd be cool to see another Schumacher, a Schumacher of our generation of Formula One drivers. And I say our generation in terms of because we watched Formula One late in the game, but it would be nice to see Schumacher be, another Schumacher be a champion.
Which I love that he wants to be a Formula One driver like his dad, but I don't think you picked the right profession, and not because you're not good. I think that if my dad was who my dad was Michael Schumacher, I don't think that I would want to do the thing that he did. Like Carlos Sainz's dad was a rally driver and was the best. And Carlos Sainz was like, no, that's not for me. So I hope he does well, but I just wouldn't want to be in my dad's shadow like that.
I think Pierre Gasly would also be another cool one. I think Gasly, he's definitely, he's non-problematic, and the fact that he went through hell going through Red Bull and then going back to Toro Rosso and doing really well with Toro Rosso, it'd be cool to see him be a champion.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be cool.
Who do you want to win?
I said Ricardo.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's just such a likable guy.
Well, he's young enough to still be able to win.
Mm-hmm.
33.
Of course, with the new car, I wouldn't be surprised if Alonso gets back on the podium.
Doesn't Alonso just look like your dirty uncle?
He does.
He just looks so dirty.
I think with Alonso, my only issue is that he does the interviews, and it's like, I feel like he just grabbed a hat and put it on, but didn't even pull his hair back. So his hair's just sticking out everywhere, and it's like, you didn't even care.
And the bill of the hat is kind of wonky.
Yeah, it's like, you didn't even care. You just look unkept.
Yes, he does. He looks like he just rolled out of bed and was like, yeah, here I am.
He's the old guy from the Formula One that just comes with the cigar and he's like, all right, we gotta get on this car and race. Got a wife beater on and just
with stains on it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what about him. He just looks like that dirty uncle that's like hanging around. They're like, oh, don't let your kids get too close to him.
Yeah, he grabs that whiskey and puts it on his armpit as deodorant. He's like, all right, we're good. Just get it over with.
I said, oh my gosh, why does he look like that? Like, he just looked like he's aged so much.
I feel like that would have been James Hunt.
Yes.
I think James Hunt was already there, but he was younger, so it
Right.
was okay. But I think if James Hunt's got to Alonso's age he was racing, that would have been James Hunt, which just probably gets up hungover and be like, I can do this all day. And he would have.
Yeah.
Back in the day, drivers were older.
Right. I think there's.
Or at least they appeared older. Like, they just looked older. But now you have these kids. And, granted, I can't do the job. I can't be a driver in Formula One. But
compared to you, they are kids.
yeah, but they're so much younger now than...
It used to be a rich man sport.
Right.
And I
Oh,
think
rich man sport.
Well, but now it's a rich sport. So rich man can play with their money and hire whoever they want to win.
Right.
I think back then it was a rich man sport. Like, I'm rich and I'm going to race this car.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, I'm rich and I'm going to win this championship with whoever I pay to win this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think McLaren really started that trend with Lando being so young.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
and then now you have all
Vettel. What about Vettel?
No, Vettel was young, but you're talking about different cars, different eras. I think you're right. I think
because Lando was only 19 when he went to McLaren.
18 maybe. Oh, maybe it was 19.
yeah, he's 19.
Like,
But I
very
think
young.
but he had to start. I mean, if I even probably be part of McLaren Academy or whatever. But I just think you're right. I think when this much money is involved, I think the fact that they invested that much money on a young guy, it's incredible. Did he win Formula 2? Did he win? I mean, I don't even know if
I
he
don't
did
know.
or not.
I don't know if he did well in Formula 2.
I think all the drivers say, "Oh, he won Formula 2, so it's kind of natural he's moving into Formula 1, or he got second place." I don't think I ever heard of Lando winning Formula 3 or Formula 2.
I know Russell did.
Yes.
There's something about maturity in the sport too that I think is important, and I think that's what some of the younger drivers lack.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think raw talent from Lando is great, but I don't think it's equal as the raw talent as like Ricardo or a Vettel.
Right.
So
well,
I think he'll get there, but I think it's going to take him a couple years.
Yeah, it definitely takes some maturity.
Yeah, well, that's weird that McLaren would... Not weird because he's doing really well for them, but he didn't win the World Championship.
No.
The the Formula 2 Championship. It reads Norris completed full-time in the 2018 FIA Formula 2 Championship, racing alongside yada, yada, yada. He won the opening race, but that was his only win that season.
Yeah. So I just think they saw that he had the raw talent, that he could do it, and I mean, obviously they got it right.
They said, very cheap.
Very cheap.
Very cheap.
But that's exactly right, right? It's the name of the game.
Yeah, the young kids with no experience don't have to be paid multi-million-dollar contracts.
Yeah, they're still paying George Russell it was $500,000, but
Yeah.
now it's $1 million.
Right.
I'm not saying only, but
But
Mercedes is getting George Russell for a really good price.
yeah.
$5 million. Half of what they were paying Bottas, and we'll see if they give him a pay increase after the first
See,
season.
and that's the problem, right? Is like you can get these young drivers, and you're like, we're going to pay you $100,000 here, $100,000 here, pay for your meals, and then they're just so excited. They're like, yes, thank you.
And I think that's a part of the driver game. If you can guarantee a good result and have a good car for less money, I think they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I have nothing else. I know this was our second go around of this, but do you guys have anything else?
No, 97 days till we start the following season. I'm very excited with the new car, see what's going to happen. I think Max is going to come back hungry, and I think Lewis is going to come back even more hungry.
Absolutely. I do love the tussles, but I will probably look up equally as amount of races as I did this season.
But we'll figure out a schedule. Maybe we'll be able to host a viewing party.
Oh,
or
that'd be cool.
join a viewing party or two. So we'll keep this momentum going. We'll come back with more episodes of Friends with Cars. Of course, it won't be F1 talk, but maybe there'll be some more races in Mexico.
Races in Mexico? We should do a podcast at the track.
We should.
Oh, that'd be cool.
We should. We might do a track podcast. That'll be a great one.
Next one's January 29th, by the way. It's at Streets of Willow.
Oh, yeah, I got a calendar invitation, and it's on a Saturday.
Perfect weather.
It's on a Saturday.
Turbo season.
It's turbo season. You wouldn't know.
Naturally aspirated all day, baby. All motor, baby.
All right. Well,
See you guys.
thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Like Vettel said.
Yeah.